Hey everyone, welcome back to MLWorks. In this video, we'll be discussing about FastAPI authorization and authentication. So the objective of the video is to learn how to protect your APIs such that only registered user can access those APIs. So there will be a specific authentication and authorization flow which contains around 6 to 7 steps. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the implementation aspect of authentication and authorization. So let's first understand the flow first. So first step is to log in with the registered user. So the user is sending username and password, and under the hood the web app will contain /token API. So under this API you will have authentication of username and password. If the username is valid and the password is valid, then you will be getting an access token with the expiry time. So once you get the access token as part of your fourth step, what you will do is now the user will be able to access the protected APIs. So as part of the fifth step, the user will be sending his username as part of access token, and then also along with other data that he wants to send in, and it will be sent to the API. If the access token is valid, then you will be able to access the API. The access token may be expired, then you won't be able to access the protected APIs. You have to regenerate the token and then you have to hit the API and get the response. So that is the whole flow of FastAPI authentication and authorization. So let's consider we have a banking account and you're trying to log in. So you will be using your username and password. So as part of authentication, what will happen is we'll verify whether the user is present or not in the database, and once the check is done, we'll be verifying the password is matching or not. Once that is also done, then we'll be generating the token with the expiry time, and within that expiry time we have to perform our transaction in the account, otherwise the session will be logged out. So that's the whole flow that we want to see in the implementation also. Now let's talk about the implementation aspect of authorization and authentication. So we'll start off with importing the packages that are required for building authorization and authentication. So first few packages are used for generating the expiry time and validating whether the expiry time is within the duration or not. And once that import is done, what we do is we import all the packages related to security, FastAPI and models. So these are for generating data models, these are for encrypting your password, and this is for generating the bearer token, and also a request form is generated when you're trying to hit the /token endpoint. These are different dependencies or modules for raising exceptions or validating the status or injecting dependency into your path operations. So once these imports are done, then we have to import from host JWT error, which is JSON Web Token error and JSON Web Token. This is used for generating or encoding and decoding the access tokens. We are done with the importing of packages. Now let's talk about the configuration and constants. So as I said in the flow, once you authenticate the username and password, you have to generate the access token. Now that access token is used as part of the request header, and it is signed by a secret key, which is this one. For now we are keeping it as same value, and the algorithm used for signing that specific access token is this algorithm, and access token expiry minutes is 30 minutes. Once the access token is generated, it will be valid for 30 minutes. Otherwise, you have to generate the access token again. So this is with respect to the security configuration, and here what we have is password hashing context. Whenever you are trying to register a user, you have to get the password from the user and store it in a database. Now it won't be stored as a plain text. You have to store it in a hashed format. So we use something called bcrypt for creating the hashing context for the specific password. So this is the way we generate the hashed password, or this is one of the module for generating the hashing for the specific password. This is OAuth 2 schema definition. So this will be used when you're trying to get the token for a client. So this will be understanding when we are trying to create an API, a token API. Okay, so just remember that this variable name is OAuth 2 schema. Now let's talk about data models. So we have to, since we are sending username, password, we are generating the access token, and we also want to ensure we don't expose our password when we are trying to fetch the details related to the user. So we have to validate all the data that is coming in and going out of the API. So we create data models for that. So class token, it inherits the properties of Pydantic based model, and it returns the shape of the response when a token is successfully issued. So once the validation of username and password is done, we issue a token, and it will contain two parameters. One is access token, which is a hashed value, or it could be a signed value by the secret key. And then you have token type, which is a bearer token. Now we want to get the token data. So in the previous step, we create access token, and that access token will contain a specific information, which is username. So the data we expect to find inside the JWT payload. So this will be the username that will be coming as part of your access token, and we'll validate that username with the help of this specific class. So these are various classes for data validation. Now next comes the user, where will be this is user in public. So whenever you are trying to hit an endpoint and you get the certain details, for instance, if you hit the specific endpoint which is mapped to this specific class, okay, you will get the username, full name and email address. But if you are mapping it to this specific class, you will be getting the hashed password. So the user model, including the hashed password, should never be exposed. So this should not be exposed as to the end user, and this is the only profile that should be accessible to the end user. So this is with respect to the data model that we have to create for validating the data that is coming in and going out of the database. Now, as part of the third step, what we do is we create dummy database and then certain utility functions. So let's understand this part. First, we want to create a utility function like get password hash. So this will, if you're sending some plain text, you will be generating some hash value for that plain text, and that will be your hashed value and stored into your database for every user. Now, as part of dummy database, what we do is consider, right, we have one password admin123. We call this function and get our fake hashed password. And once in a real time, what will happen is every time a user is registering, okay, we'll call this function, we'll get the hashed password, and we'll make a query of insertion into a database. So since we are not setting up database here, what we do is we create a dictionary, fake user DB, and this is the key, which is the same as the username, which needs to be unique. So we have a test user, and this is the data related to that specific user. And while we are storing it into the database, we ensure that we use a hashed password, and we have rest of the details here, username, full name, email. So let me go back a little bit here, right? So if you see here, user, we get these three details. And if you are using user in DB, you will also get hashed password. Since it is also inheriting the properties of user, you will get access to all these details as well. So we have created a dummy database of users where we have their username, password, email ID and full name. Now it is up to us, based on the type of class that we map, we get the relevant details. Now there are some more utility functions where we verify the password, then we get the user from the DB, and then we authenticate the user. So when it comes to verification of password, you will be sending in a plain text password, and you have your hashed password from the database. So while verification, we verify the plain password against the hashed password and whether it is true or false. Okay, whether it is matching or not. Then comes the get user. What we do is we have our database and then we have our username that is coming in, who is logging in. So what we do is we check whether the username is present in the database. If it is present, then we go ahead and collect all the details. Get that user dictionary and get use this user in DB. So we get everything, which is like along with the password, we get full name, username and email ID. We get all the user details here. Now when it comes to authenticate user def function, so it takes in our database and we have our username and then password. So first check is to see whether the user is present or not. If it is not present, okay, then we return false. And if the password is not verified, then we return false. If it is these both if statements are not passed, then we go ahead and get the user detail and send it across and authenticate the user. Now, as part of fourth step, what we have to do is we have to generate token, and whatever the details that are coming as part of the token, we want to decode that as well. So till now what we have done is, if you see here, right, till now it is at the login stage where we are sending the username and password and we are trying to authenticate. So we have written the functionality for those. Now to create access token, what we do is whatever the data that is coming in, which is the username in this case, right? Because as part of the token will be encoding the username. If I just go back here, somewhere here, the token data. So we are just taking the username and it is coming as part of the JWT payload. Now, while creating the access token, what we do is we ensure first we create an expiry time for that specific token, so which is done with the help of this specific set of lines. And once that is done, what we do is we update our dictionary here. What is the expiry of this specific token? So the timestamp. And as part of the data, we pass the data to encode, and we just copy the data from here to encode variable. So this is also a dictionary, and we are updating the dictionary here with the expiration time to the payload. And then what we do is whatever the username that we got here and along with the expiry time, and then what we do is we take the secret key which we added earlier, which is this one, and the algorithm which is this one, HS256. So if we go here, so JWT.encode, and will be encoding our access to the data that is we are getting, which is to encode, and then along with we sign it with the secret key, and then algorithm used for encoding this JWT is HS256, and we get our encoded JWT token. Now next comes the asynchronous def get current user. So it is expecting a token, and the token needs to be validated whether this is a bearer token or not, which is done with the help of this dependency check. And once this is correctly annotated and validated with the help of this dependency check, then you can go ahead and use this token and decode it. Otherwise, if the token is having something mismatched with respect to the schema or something, right, it will throw an error here itself. And so once this check is done, then you can go ahead and decode this specific JWT token. So the dependency to decode and validate the JWT from the authorization header. So whenever a request comes in, it will be having a header, and that header will contain a bearer token, and that bearer token is validated with the help of dependency auth to schema. At the end, from this function, we want to get a user out. So in this function, we also define credentials exception, which is if the user is invalid, we'll be sending 401 unauthorized, and then the detail will be could not validate the credentials, and the header is bearer. And inside the try catch statement, what we do is we take the payload, which is the JWT payload, and we decode it, and with the help of the same secret key and algorithm. If the secret key is mismatched, then again you won't be able to verify the validation of the token. We cannot verify that. And then if the algorithm is also modified, then it will be incorrect to decode this one. So we'll be getting our decoded output here inside the payload. And if you see here, right, sub, you'll be getting the username here. So dot get sub is nothing but your username, and it will be here stored in the username variable. And if it is not present, then you will again raise a credential exception and saying that it is 401 unauthorized. And once you get the username, then you again validate with the help of token data, which is the class that we created earlier here, which is expecting the username. So this is how you validate the username that is coming as part of your JWT token. And if something goes wrong with respect to any of these decoding aspect of JWT, you raise an JWT error and credentials exception. As part of this line, what we do is we check fake user DB, and the token from the token we got the username right here. That we take that up and we validate whether this user is present inside the DB or not. So we get that get user and we check. If that user is none, then we have to raise an exception. Otherwise, we send the user object outside, excluding the password hash. We don't want to send the password as a part of your response. So again, a verification is done in terms of again with respect to database check is done and see whether this username is present or not. Now what we do here is, this is a simple function, an optional function where you just test whether the user is active or not based on certain criteria. So in real app, you might check whether the user is disabled or not. If somebody is not using the account, we might end up deactivating that specific user. So that can be done with the help of this specific function. So till now, what we have done is we have talked about the logic, how to handle authorization and authentication, and even with respect to the token. So all that we have done. Now we want to create the web app. So what we do is we use FastAPI instance, pass in the details like title and description, what it does, and create our app instance. And inside the app instance, first thing we create is /token, and the response model that we want to take is token, which will contain access token and access type, which is bearer. And this is just a tag for the specific route, whatever we are creating, right? This is an authentication route. And the definition of the function contains a form data. So we'll be seeing the Swagger UI where we'll be getting the form, where we'll be sending our username and password. And so this is validated with the help of, that form is validated with the help of this specific dependency. Okay, so this will ensure that whatever you are sending, it is an OAuth 2 password request form. Okay, this will be validated with the help of this specific piece of line. Now, once you get, as part of this form, you get the username and password, you get it as part of some kind of a dictionary or key value. So form data.username and form data.password. Then what you do is you authenticate the user, whether the user is present in the DB or not, whether the password is valid or not. Once that is done, you get the user. If that user is not present, then you will raise an exception. Otherwise, you will go ahead and get the access token also. So what we do is time delta, we get 30 minutes. So access token expires. So what we do here is then we create our access token. So if you see here, right, when we are calling this function create access token, we use the username and what is the expiry time that we want to assign to this specific token while we are generating the token. So it will be 30 minutes. So we'll get an access token, and which will be seen as our final output. So if you see here, right, as part of our response model, we are expecting token, and here if you see, this is the token dictionary, which contains token type and access token, and this is bearer and this is access token that got generated here. So this value what you are seeing, it's similar to, if I go back here, token, yeah, this one, access token and token type, and this is the bearer. So it is the similar thing that we are passing as our response here. Now let's talk about public. So this is the root of the app, and it is accessible to everyone. You don't need to have authenticated user for the specific API route. Okay, this is something like your login page. Everyone can get access to it. So we don't want to add any protection to this specific route. Now then comes app.get/user/me, and the response model is user. And here you will see whether the get current active user, and when you are doing that get current active user, you are going through the process of getting the current user details, and that current user details also requires you to check all these JWT token. All these checks has to go back. It has to trace back whether the user is validated with the access token or not. So when we are reading these two paths, right, which is /user/me and /protected data, these two are protected APIs, and it has to verify whether the user is logged in or not. If they are not logged in, then you just keep them as not authorized, and that will be your response for it if they are not authorized. Okay, so if they are authorized, you will get the current user details. That's it. So this is the flow for building the API and for authentication and authorization. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run this file and see how it works. So let me go here to the terminal and uvcon main auth, then app, then reload. So what we do here is we spin up the server and we look into the main file and take the instance of the app, and then we pass this parameter reload such that whatever the changes we make to the file, that is the main auth file, it gets automatically restarts the server and gets the updated file. So let me run this. So the application has started and it is running on 8000. So let me go here, incognito, local, yeah. So we have our app here. Now as part of all the different APIs, so we have /token /read root. So this is publicly available. If you try it out, you will get some response. So welcome access to /talks to try the authentication flow. So this is good, working fine. Now if you see here, there is authorize button is present, and there are two lock icon present on these two APIs, which is /user/me and /protected data. So these are protected APIs. So what will happen is if I just go ahead and try it out, okay, just execute something, it will throw an error, or it will throw an error in a sense that not authenticated. The user is not authenticated because we did not pass the username and password yet. So I'll just stop this one. I'll just click this again, protected /data, execute this one, and we'll see that this is also not authorized. So till now you are in the login page, you are sending some username password. It could be empty field also. You're sending that and you are getting this response like you are not authorized to access this specific login or this specific web app. So what we do is next, before we go on to what authorize it, let me talk about this one. So try it out, and here you will see there is this is the token API which takes in username and password. So here by default it is string. If you remember, I have some hard-coded username and password. So if I go back here, this is the username and this is the password. Now test user, and the password is admin123, and then I just execute, and you will see I got an access token and token type, and this is the access token. Now it has been signed by the secret key, and it has been using that algorithm which is HS256. Now to decode this, you again have to use JWT.decode and pass this access token along with the secret key and the algorithm and get your username from this specific token. So this is the flow for this slash token. Now I'll cancel this, minimize this one. Now, though I got the token here, what I have to do is I have to copy this, and then when I send request to these URLs, which is that user and then this protected data, okay, I have to pass this token as part of a header. Then only I can able to access this other protected APIs. So to avoid sending those as part of the header, what I'll do is the Swagger UI will give you this option to use authorize. I can click this one, and what it will do is it will apply whatever the token that is getting generated after passing the username and password. It will apply that token across your APIs. So let's see that. So test user, and the password is admin123. So we have got into the specific web app. Now I will just close this. So what has happened is it has generated the token in the backend. So if I can see here, right? So if you see, the last thing that got executed is token. Okay, so it has generated the token in the backend. Now we just have to, so it has generated the token in the backend. Now it has access to all these different APIs. So if I go back here now, so if you see that the icon has been changed now, okay, it is locked. It is showing it as locked. Now if we try it out, if I just give that execute, you will see it is getting the username, full name and email. And if you see here, as part of the request, we are calling this slash user slash me, but we are also passing the header where we pass our bearer token. So it is internally the Swagger UI provides or attaches your bearer token to all the protected APIs also. So if I go ahead and click this, I don't think so we need bearer token for this. So let me run this again. Okay, so as part of the request, we are not sending bearer token for this specific route, which is the read route. Now again, we'll test this one, protected-data, and here if you go ahead and execute, okay, now it had attached the bearer token and we got that specific output for that specific user. Hello test user, you have successfully accessed the protected data. User ID is test user. And one more thing, right? If you just look at that users me, okay, you are not getting the password here because the response model that we used for the specific API route is users. Okay, just go back here. So you will see slash users slash me. The response model that we are using is users. It is not users in DB. If you are using users in DB, you will be getting the password also. So let me just modify this one, users in DB. So let's see if it throws if it shows the password also or not. So this will restart my app. Now I'll go back here, and so let me again do this. So again I have to authorize. So test user and admin123 authorize. Close this, and if I try out now user me, try it out and execute. So it is throwing an internal server error. Probably there is a validation error probably going on. So if you see here, missing LOC, hashed password. So we are not taking that hashed password somewhere. That key is not been present here. So yeah, if you see here, right, at the end of the day, we are just taking this one, username, full name and email. there is no hash password is present, and this hash password is coming as part of your response, but we are not taking it out. So that's why it will throw an error here, internal server error. So let me go back, modify this again to users, save it. It will restart the app. Now I'll again run this, authorize it, test user, and then password is admin123, authorize. So we are inside the app. Now you are able to access everything as usual. Now once you have, so right now if you know, right, there is a expiry of this token that we get from the specific app. So let me run this once. So this token that we have here, right, it has certain expiry, this token. Now after 30 minutes this token will be expired, and if you are trying to hit this execute, you won't be able to see this response. You will be shown unauthorized or not authenticated, 401 error. So yeah, so we are at the end of the video. We are able to build an app where we are able to access it with the help of registered user, and we verify whether the password is correct or not, and all those things are done. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video on FastAPI. Thanks.